Hey gorgeous, happy Tuesday. How you doing? It's Bex with another Tune Up Tuesday, and I'm here to help you tune your heart to the frequency of love. And as you can tell, I'm feeling my blinging realness today, my blingy fantasy. I'm just loving I love this Facebook filter because it makes my teeth bling and it makes my eyes bling and my nose rings bling. Oh, it's really too fun. I was trying to play with the other filters and they're just a little too distracting. So we're sticking with the bling. Bing, bing. Awesome. All right. So today, I wanted to have a quick conversation with you about what is the thing that we do as smart, successful, driven, ambitious women that scares the men away, just scares them off and like has them running for the hills. And, you know, one of the things that as it comes up in my community all the time is this piece of authentic vulnerability. Oh, I know some of you cringe when you hear that word. And I actually had a conversation with a woman this weekend. I was doing a training with her, and she is an attorney and really high performing. She has pretty much like built her whole life to succeed and to have a better life than her parents, who were immigrants, and they kind of influenced her to succeed and to strive. And you know, and there was also this piece of like toughening up and going for it anyway. And so she, you know, she ended up with this career in law. And so now she's this high-powered attorney, and she's like 36, and she's single, and she has always wanted a relationship, but has never really been able to keep anybody around. And, you know, the deeper that we got into it, the more I found out that she is so very inner masculine. She's got the masculine energy thing down. And then anytime anybody was speaking to her about feminine energy or about vulnerability or emotion, she had a wall. She noticed that she put up this wall because she felt like, well, she had all these associations with feminine energy, with vulnerability, that she felt like she didn't want to have anything to do with that. And boy, I can absolutely resonate with that, because that was me. That was totally me, and can still be to some degree to this day, even as much as I know and as much as I practice. But the thing is that we're still human. So the things that came up in my conversation with this woman, and the things that I noticed in my own life, were these correlations that we had with vulnerability, with feminine energy, that just weren't true. For example, she had a correlation. She was tying vulnerability with weakness. That those who were expressing their emotions, or those who were up against difficulty or resistance and making that known, or anybody asking for help or support, she would see as weak, because that was part of the program that she received as a young person, that you could do it yourself, and like you have what it takes, and you know, which is true for sure. And you also get to be in community. You also get to be in receiving of support and love. So equating vulnerability with weakness is one big red flag to be on the lookout for in your own life. These other correlations, I'm really curious to know if you also have these correlations, if you've drawn these lines together, and if so, drop me a note in the box below, because I know I can support you. I know I can support you in breaking these correlations. So the next one is associating vulnerability with neediness. Now, none of us want to be needy, right? And so many of us have built our life around being able to do it yourself, and you know, and not having to ask for help. But here's the thing, you know, again, coming back to this crazy notion that we're all human. As a human being, we have needs. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make you less of a human. It doesn't make you less of a woman. It doesn't make you less desirable as a woman. Having needs is part of the human experience. And in fact, when we're able to identify our needs and communicate them effectively, it actually makes us more desirable in a man's eyes than when we're when we're doing the opposite, which I'll get to in just a moment. So again, just kind of linking the dots for you on what are the attitudes that make masculine men, high performing, successful men run for the hills when they're in your presence. And one of these big things is when we're conflating vulnerability, feminine energy, surrender, flow with these other aspects that are not necessarily true. With weakness, that was number one. Number two, neediness. And number three here, this was a big one for me, women who can't get their shit together. Oh God. Women who are vulnerable, oh my God, they just can't get their shit together. Like, and whatever definition that means for you. For me, it meant, women who couldn't tell their ass from their elbow, or women who, couldn't use a calendar, or flaked out on appointments, or always showed up late, or this, that, the other. When I pride myself on being on time and making shit happen in my life and not settling for less and really having my shit together. But anything less than that, I was conflating with being too feminine or being vulnerable, being needy, being weak, all of these things. And then number four, the other conflation that I just recently encountered with another woman that I was speaking with last week, who had conflated vulnerability with manipulation. I mean, whoa, buckle your seatbelt. That's a big one, right? But totally, from an outside perspective, you can completely see how, for example, if you were raised with a mother, for example, who wasn't able to identify or communicate her needs, and she resorted to manipulation to get her needs met, then of course you're going to see manipulation as conflated with what it means to be feminine, or and we don't want that. So we're going to lean into maybe being too direct, or being or just suppressing needs altogether. Okay, so let me get back to that in just a moment. So the big conflations that I see really strong, successful, driven women conflating with vulnerability being an aspect of feminine energy, are weakness, neediness, can't get their shit together, and manipulation. So throw me some hearts or drop me a comment in the box below if you yourself have any of those conflations, if you relate to any of those connections. Okay, because we want to break those connections, because it's actually very powerful to be in your feminine energy. It's very powerful to be vulnerable. Now, here's the things that we resort to instead of being vulnerable, instead of being direct. What ends up happening is that instead, and this goes for the woman that I was speaking with over the weekend, she hid her emotions. She felt like having emotions wasn't safe. She didn't want to have anything to do with her emotional self, which is a really, really tricky situation for her, because she's actually an empath. She's this highly sensitive person who feels so much, but at an early age was taught or made some belief that wasn't safe, that was not how she was going to get forward in life, how she was going to succeed towards her dreams and goals. Now, that's gotten her pretty far in her career. But again, at 36, now she's like, why have I not had a relationship that has stuck? Why do men run for the hills after 1, 2, 3 dates with me, if she can even make it past the first date or the initial conversation? All right, so you're hiding your emotions. You're denying your needs. Again, sister, having needs is human. And this is something that I struggle with too, because that wasn't modeled for me very clearly when I was a child, where, being so in touch with what what you need as an individual, as a human being, as a woman on this planet, how you want to be cared for, how you want to be communicated with, how you want to be addressed. And one of the things, and I'll give you this right now, one of the things that you could start doing is playing with this practice of checking in. I'm actually engaging in this practice right now where I set a timer for every 3 or 4 hours. And then when the timer goes off, I'm asking myself, taking a breath, I'm checking in and asking myself, what am I feeling right now? And what are my needs right now? It just seems so basic. I know it seems so basic, but we weren't taught these things in grade school, and chances are our parents didn't teach us either. But when we can identify those things for ourselves, then it becomes much easier within the context of relationship. And there's so much more that I have to say about that. That's another Tune Up Tuesday for you. Okay, we'll come back to that on another day. So when we are not embracing our feminine energy, when we are not leaning into vulnerability, we're hiding our emotions, we're denying our needs, we are not setting boundaries. And this goes hand in hand with number 4, which is we're not speaking up for ourselves or communicating effectively. Now, what do I mean by those two that are hand in hand? That means that when we're not setting boundaries, we're just letting things like not, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't, like, I'm just going to put up with it, or I'm hoping that the situation will change, or he should be reading my mind, or like he should know how to treat me. He should know what to say. He should know better than to do that. All of these things I know because I've been there. And so when we're not speaking up for ourselves and communicating our needs effectively, these are the things that are happening. And then on the other end, the guy's seen as in, all he's trying to do is make you happy, sister. And when he's not able to do that because you're giving mixed signals or you're being really quiet about your needs, then there's nowhere for him to support you. There's nowhere for him to be the man in the relationship and like help you solve the problem or love you where you're at. And oftentimes, and I see this a lot, is the suppression of emotion and need until that boiling point where it's like no longer. And this was me, and it's still something that I work on today. But in the past, it was like suppress, deny, quiet, explosion, and that was the end of the relationship. And that's just not great, especially if we're wanting to be in sustainable, lasting, loving relationships. All right. So if this is a pattern that you identify with, sister, I want to speak with you, okay? Because it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, like I said, I still notice these patterns in myself, even though I'm in a long-term relationship, because I've learned tools and skills, and I still practice them today. I'm not perfect. God knows I'm not perfect, but it's definitely a practice that has allowed me to enjoy the relationship that I'm in for way longer than my longest relationship. All of my past relationships ended at 2.5 years. 2.5 years, 2.5 years. And they all ended in dumpster fires because just this catastrophic explosion, because that was my pattern, of like assuming and, putting all the responsibility on him instead of taking responsibility for myself, my needs, and getting my needs met. And again, this is definitely something that I practice in my relationship, but my goodness, Nick and I are coming up on, 7 years this June, and I would never have imagined that I would be in a 7-year relationship, and we're looking at a lifetime together because he and I both are really in this reflective inquiry and this practice of identifying needs and communicating them to each other. Okay. So one more thing here, these are the other things that are the outcome, and these might be the things that you resonate with, is that, when we're not in the practice of vulnerability, when we're not in the practice of our feminine energy, we're not getting our needs met. So therefore you routinely are disappointed and frustrated. And then not only that, not getting your needs met, not getting what you want out of relationship. Then we move into blaming others, blaming the men. Oh, well, he should have just known, like I was saying before, he should have known how to treat me. He should have known that I was wanting to see him again, or whatever the assumption was. And then this third piece is that we end up in this vicious cycle where, like, for example, in my history, I was having the same experience over and over and over again. Oh my goodness. And I read something really brilliant in this book that I was reading last night. It's called The Alchemist, and there's an Arabic parable that was laid out at the very end, and I'll try to shoot it off from memory because I didn't anticipate sharing this with you on the Facebook Live today, but it was something about, oh shoot, let me just go get it. It's right over here. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I knew I dog-eared it for a reason, but I didn't realize the reason would show up so quickly. But it was just this beautiful quote that I think that you'll get so much out of. Okay, so the alchemist says to the boy, and if you're not familiar with this book, I highly recommend it. Just finished it last night. so this was just about something that had happened to him on the road, but he said, I believe in our proverbs. It's an Arabic proverb that says, everything that happens once can never happen again. But everything that happens twice will surely happen a third time. Bam! So again, that just kind of comes back to your relationship history. And there are times when there's something that happens once and you swear that will never ever happen again. But then there are times when you have to learn that lesson a second time, and then chances are you got to learn it a third time before you can actually take active, effective change in your life. So I hope this has been really helpful. I love you so much, and I highly just encourage you to take on that practice of checking in with yourself, asking what you're feeling at any given moment, what you need at any given moment, and let's just take that practice one step further. Anytime shit hits the fan, anytime you've got an explosion or a blow up or an expectation not met or any kind of frustration or resistance or disappointment, you can reflect back on what need was not met. And on top of that, what was I not asking for? Or where can I take personal responsibility in that situation of getting that need met? Okay, so I hope this was super helpful for you. If you would love some support in any of these areas, I'd love to hop on a call with you. Once this recording is done, I will drop the link to apply for a call with me. And that's an opportunity for you and I to kind of get a closer look at what's happening, what's not happening in your love life. And I'll share with you what I see your next steps are for breakthrough, getting past this area of stuckness. But here's the deal. If we are a match made in heaven, I'm going to chat with you about how we can work on a more consistent basis in a committed coaching relationship. Because a 30-minute call is just not enough to radically change your life and shift and transform into the iteration of you that's going to call in your man. So I have a number of different ways that you can work with me. One of them, the doors are open for like 2 more weeks before those doors close for the end of the year. That's my deep dive year-long Your Majesty group coaching circle that I would love to chat with you about if that's something that you feel called to jump into. Again, there are like 4 seats left, and those doors are open for 2 more weeks. Beyond that, though, I do have other opportunities for you and I to go into a deep dive on a long-term basis, on a short-term basis, and we can have that conversation if we feel like it's a fit. If not, that's totally cool. You get my perspective, you get your next steps, and you go on your merry way, okay? So one last thing, I am throwing down a pop-up webinar masterclass this Saturday. I'm going to shoot an email out to it. If you're not already on my email list, go over to bexburtoncoaching.com and scroll down. You'll find an opt-in box where you'll get a video series as well as the invitation to the masterclass, which is going to be Saturday morning at 8:30 Pacific, 9:30 Mountain, 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern. I think it's like 2:30 London, or I don't remember what London time and Sydney time is, so you got to do your math. Sorry. And I hope to see you there because it's going to be a grand old time. I'm going to take some questions and answers, and I'm going to share with you 10 things to stop doing in your love life now because they're driving you crazy and not moving you forward. All right. I love you so much, sister, and I can't wait to see you on the webinar this weekend and hopefully back here for another Tune Up Tuesday next week. Oh, let me check I got some comments. Yes, ma'am, Lori. No manipulation station, love. Just taking responsibility and moving yourself forward. Karima, hey, great to see you here, lady. Hello. Excellent. Oh, thanks, Lori. Thanks for sharing this with your friend Sophie. I so appreciate that. All right, ladies, thank you so much. And feel free to be in touch. I'm always here for you and happy to support you in getting what you want in lasting love. Mwah. Bye.